Brendan for R&B Reviews.
And I'm Rob.
And this week we are reviewing X-Men Origins Wolverine. And this one is simply about Wolverine's backstory, everything that happens to him before the first X-Men movie. You see him get recruited by William Stryker, and he works with his half-brother Victor, aka Sabretooth, and you sort of see all Wolverine's struggles and how he becomes... basically how Logan becomes Wolverine, how he gets his adamantium claws and all that. And pretty much, not to give too much away, it's the entire backstory that ties in perfectly with the other 3 X-Men movies. So, Rob, how did you view this movie?
Well, personally, I would say rent it on DVD. I mean, I thought the dialogue was very good, and it didn't feel forced, and I thought the humor in this film was one of the film's big strong points. I really enjoyed the humor a lot, but to me, the movie just felt like a history lesson, about Wolverine. It didn't feel quite like an action film. It was like, here's Wolverine's backstory, and that's it. And I just sat there, But I kind of liked this movie, but it just felt like a history lesson,
A lot of information being thrown at you.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. I mean, out of all the X-Men movies, this one definitely has the most sort of twists and turns in its plot and stuff. But I was not so generous with the rating. I would have to say to snuff this X-Men movie. Before I get into my negatives, I gotta say, there are things I liked in the movie. Like, the opening credits sequence is really cool, and it shows Logan and Victor, aka Sabretooth, fighting in different battles. Like, you see them in the Civil War, which is really cool, and Logan takes a cannonball to the chest, and you see them in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and that stuff I was really cool. I was very impressed with, and I was like, it looked good and everything, and I really liked the character of Victor. But once they kind of set up the movie, it kind of got a little too twisty-turvy, and I wasn't really getting into it. All the action sequences, I didn't care for them. I mean, I know the director doesn't come from action, but it kind of shows with this movie. I mean, the action scenes were not really all that well done.
Yeah, the film's more on the drama side rather than action.
Yeah, and for a movie with a lot of action scenes, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
To have someone, because none of the actors were bad. I mean, they had a good cast. I mean, Liev Schreiber I thought was great as Victor, but they underused him, and they horribly and criminally underused Ryan Reynolds, who's only in a couple scenes.
Yeah, especially in the first minutes, he was really good in the beginning.
Yeah, and then it's just it just felt like the producers were like, you guys got to get these characters in this movie. The fans will love it.
Yeah, I can understand what you're talking about. At the end when Wolverine finds out that Major Stryker's doing experiments on mutants, he kidnaps Cyclops. I think I saw Storm in one of the cells. Well, I didn't see her in person, but I think I saw the wind spinning around and all that. And it did feel like they were trying to cram a lot of characters, and I had a hard time figuring out who was the villain. Is it supposed to be Victor, or is it supposed to be Major Stryker? It's like they were taking turns being villains in this movie.
It definitely seemed like the screenwriters didn't have a clear idea. I mean, at first it felt like it was going to be a movie about Wolverine. Then it kind of started dawning to me, okay, they're really trying to make this a little prequel heavy. Although the movie is about Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman does a good job of playing Wolverine. I mean, it's a pretty easy part for him by now. I mean, this is his 4th time doing it, but I just didn't care for it. And getting on the negative side, the visual effects in this movie were just awful. I mean, compared to the other superhero movies, I mean, this movie it's not Daredevil bad, but this movie's close. I mean, the effects were just garbage. I mean, I just saw them, and it took me out of the movie so quick. It's like, could they have done that without visual effects?
Well, I'll agree with you. I thought the visual effects were okay. They weren't fantastic, but I don't think they were that garbage. I think they did help tell the story visually and all. And
they weren't Sci-Fi Channel original bad, but they were just... I was expecting a little better, I guess, from an X-Men movie. I mean, yeah, you can probably yell at me. I mean, other viewers saying it's an X-Men movie, of course, there's going to be visual effects. But the visual effects they had were just not that impressive to me. They were obvious visual effects.
I thought they were very decent, in my opinion.
It was just one thing in the movie that took me a little off balance. I mean, aside from that, they kept introducing characters. There was too many characters in this movie. Like you'd get to know these guys, and then they would disappear in the next scene. And Wolverine would go on to the next new batch of people to hang out with.
Yeah, there were a couple times that when a couple of the members of the original team that Victor and Wolverine become a part of for the U.S. government, some of them did come back later, and I had to try to remember who was who. I mean, for some it was easier, but for some others I had a hard time remembering. Another one problem I had was when Major Stryker is talking about why he started focusing his attention on mutants. It's because his son Bill is a mutant. I'm like, wait, did we see Bill in the movie? And I tried to remember if we did or not, and it turns out we didn't. It was I suppose it was a little bit confusing at times trying to remember who was who, especially when they pop in for only a couple of scenes.
That was definitely, I don't know, it just felt like too many characters, and I don't know, it felt like they have a franchise here. Why don't they expand and use these characters in different X-Men movie as opposed to just getting a whole bunch in this one? It definitely felt like they were trying to cram a lot in there that didn't get much screen time.
Okay. So you're still saying snuff it for this movie, man?
I'm still saying snuff it, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I mean, I could have spent that $9.75 better, in my opinion.
And you think that you would only watch this movie if it came up on cable TV?
Probably, yeah. In a few years, I'll probably turn it on. Maybe I'll be like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought. But for right now, for summer blocks, for these summer blockbuster movies and for superhero movies too, I think this was a bit of a letdown. I mean, I guess like a Wolverine movie, good way to begin the summer, but not a very good movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say rent it on DVD. There's some elements that's worth looking into, like the actors were for the most part very good, and the dialogue was just great, and the humor, I really like the humor the most. But yeah, I don't see a point in rushing to the theaters to seeing this movie. I think you could just wait until it comes out on DVD.
It is watchable, but I just guess say if you can live without an X-Men movie, I say skip it and watch this first X-Men movie.
Okay. Alright, well that's our review for X-Men Origins Wolverine. If you want to leave any feedback or how you felt about the movie, we welcome that. And we'll see you on the next edition of R&B Reviews.